And the only way that you can break the cycle of judging others and yourself is to, number one, establish your self-worth in a meaningful relationship with God. Notice how I'm being very blunt with the word I'm choosing to use. Meaningful. How often do you judge others? Think about that question for a moment, and maybe go a little bit step further too and ask yourself, how often do you judge yourself? I was talking with some friends a little while ago, and we were just chatting on how easy it is to form an opinion on someone based on someone else telling you what their opinion is. Meanwhile, you have a friend, you have a family member, maybe you have a coworker that says, hey, have you met this person? This person is like this, and I'm not really a fan of that person because they do this and this and this and this. And they almost form your judgment for you before you even have met the person, heard about the person, shook hands with the person, all of that. And we see that all of the time. Ever since I was little, when I went through elementary school to high school, junior high, all those grades, I did that all the time. If I had a really good friend that was like one of my best buddies at school and they had an opinion of someone else, oftentimes I would grasp onto that opinion. And I would now have an opinion of someone else before I've even fully allowed myself to have an opinion about someone else, maybe even met them, maybe even formed my own opinion on that person. But I had to make a decision for myself one day. It must have been in my late teenage years probably, where I finally decided, yeah, there's people that you trust and sometimes they can give you good information on people, but what you really think of that person should come down to you forming your own opinion on that person. And it shouldn't be based on judgment. See, judgment is something that's funny in the world that we live in. You find it everywhere. Also with the comparing. Man, the comparing game in the world that we live in, you can probably think to yourself right now that it happens everywhere you go. Anywhere you look, people are comparing themselves to other people, or their finances to other people's finances, or their houses to other people's houses. And this comparing judgmental game goes on forever. And when we're not careful on that, it actually creates a really interesting life for us to live that brings on a lot of pain, maybe even suffering, because you experience a lot of other people's judgment as well. And like I said, I had to make my own decision that I said, you know what? Despite what someone tells me about someone else, I'm going to make the decision to go, I can take that information, but I'm still going to form my own decision when I meet that person on what I feel about that person, what you feel inside of you. And even when maybe you pray about the friends that you have or the family members you hang out with or where you spend your time, and you can even feel Holy Spirit inside of you direct you where you want to go. But the fact of the matter is, judgment is absolutely huge in the world that we live in. Majority of people judge. And they don't even know it. The decisions that they make are completely based on what others think or say. You know, I think back to my first car, and it was a 1998 Honda Civic. I was so pumped when I got this car. When I bought this car, I was like ecstatic. I can't remember how old I was, but I had my license for a couple years, and it was like I finally got my own car, and it was a Standard. And when I got the car, I didn't know how to drive Standard. I had to figure that out. And luckily, my parents both knew how to drive it, and they were able to train me on it. But I was stoked. There was a 98 Civic. The paint was chipping everywhere. There was rust spots. The whole clear coat on the exterior of the car was all blotchy and wearing off. But I was so pumped. It was so stoked. And that was my first car. It was a car that I got from A to B. I remember when I was driving a bunch of friends in that car, and a few of my friends didn't have their own car. And I heard one guy in the back say, yeah, but the engine in this thing is not very fast. Like, it's not that great of a car, blah, 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 is what this person was saying. And I looked back, I was like, yeah, but in the moment, he didn't have a car. And I was like, it's better than your car. Even if it gets you from A to B and you're good and you're safe, that's a great car in my opinion. And that's what this Civic did for me. It was so good. I was so stoked about it. But the problem is that we live in a world where people feel like they have a status or someone they need to keep up to. And oftentimes, the money they spend, the things they do, the decisions they make, the friends that they have, what they believe in, what they are against, what they stand up for, what they sit down for, I could go on and on and on. It's all based on what other people think about them, which gets you in this trap. And we see this with houses, we see this with anything, to be completely honest. The judgmental comparing game in the world that we live in is so prevalent, but it's also so destructive. So what does it mean to judge? Identifying what someone did is not judgment. We think that all the time. That's not the case. That's just merely observation. It is when we assume to know why someone did what they did. And that's when we enter into judgment. So again, it's not us going, hey, we just identify what someone is doing or someone did. That's just observation. But it's when we assume that we know why that person did what they did. That's when you enter into judgment. So you can walk around not realizing that your judgment is what's bringing a lot of pain into your life right now. But when you break that cycle of judgment, when you then you begin to step out of that pain. So it's so important for us to break that cycle of judgment if you find yourself to be a judgmental person, whether that be self-judgment or whether that be judging someone else. But most often, if you judge yourself, you judge other people. And if you judge other people, you judge yourself. That's just how it happens, because it comes from a low self-worth. See, people who do not have their self-worth established in a meaningful relationship with God need to justify all of their actions. Everything that they do needs to be justified for them to feel like they have worth. That's sad. See, if they want to treat you badly, they judge you to find fault. But if they want to be kind to you, they judge you good. See, judgment can be good and bad, but it comes from a very lack of self-worth in your own life. See, our self-worth should come from God. You probably hear this all the time. You're like, yeah, I get it. Our self-worth needs to be established. And yeah, if you're saying that and you still haven't experienced real self-worth in your life, then you need to analyze that in your life. You need to look back onto what goes on in your life that you haven't experienced true self-worth that doesn't come from your spouse, that doesn't come from your kids, that doesn't come from your work, that doesn't come from the good deeds you do from someone else, but no, it comes from just because you know who you are. You know that God created you with vision, with a purpose, with a plan. Regardless of what you've done in your past, that plan is still just as real today as it is when the day you were born. And when you realize that, you start to establish and ground this self-worth in God's word and what God thinks of you. And then no one around you, judging you or not, can control that self-worth because you've already established it within God. And that's unshakable as long as you remain in it. But the second you start judging yourself, the second you start judging other people, you start to degrade that self-worth that you might have worked so hard to establish in your heart. So choose to get into God's word, and that will help you with that self-worth. In Matthew chapter 22, verse 36 to 39, it says this, "Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law?" And Jesus replied, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. The second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself." There's a reason that those greatest commandments that God says right there are in that order. Because you can never truly know love until you know what love is. And the only way that you can know what love is if you know God. Because in the Bible, it talks about God is love. And so if you think you can experience real love, but you don't know God, then you've never truly experienced love. You may feel like you did, but then that's amazing, because the love that you might feel right now, if it's not grounded in God, the love that you're going to experience from God is going to tenfold that and completely just crumple the love that you feel right now, because God's love is so big. It's just all-encompassing. It's perfect. That's what the Bible says. And the only way that you can break the cycle of judging others and yourself is to, number one, establish your self-worth in a meaningful relationship with God. Notice how I'm being very blunt with the word I'm choosing to use. Meaningful. Establish your self-worth in a meaningful relationship with God. Not just a willy-nilly relationship with God because you want to build your self-worth and that's it. No, it needs to be meaningful to you. See, the majority of the problems you might go through in your life are tied to self-worth in some way. Whether that's because you were raised in that way, whether that's because you were taught in schools that way, maybe you just kind of fell into that because of the way people treated you and you never had proper teaching when it comes to God and who you are and how you were created. Or maybe just how you were treated, like I said, and it just wrecked your self-worth. See, the biggest reason people judge is because their own lack of self-worth. Their own lack of self-worth. That is one of the biggest reasons you judge. You can ask yourself right now, and I would probably be asking you to be very honest with yourself right now when you think to yourself, are you a judgmental person? And if you say yes to that, and that's okay. Everyone's in this journey to better themselves, to become closer to God, to find their purpose, to find God's plan for them, to experience God's love. Everyone's on this journey. And that's why the journey is amazing, because the journey can be right at the beginning right now of where you are. That journey could have just started for you. Or maybe you could be in the end of that journey where you're like, yeah, I'm understanding this. I'm getting there. I have my self-worth. I don't let other people take it. But when you get into that, your life begins to change because you no longer feel the need to judge yourself or others because you know who you are and who you were created to be. Number 2, you need to truly allow love into your life. It's the only way you can break this cycle of judgment. Whether it's self-judgment, like I said, whether it's judging someone else, you need to truly allow love into your life. See, the only antidote for life of judgment is a life of love. The only real cure for pain is to allow God to love it away. You have to get to know love and get to know God. There's no other way to experience the realities that Jesus taught and modeled if you don't grasp on to what love is. God is love. So the more you get to know God, the more you begin to love. You will not live a life of love accidentally. Accidental things are never going to happen. If you want a good marriage one day, you better be bettering yourself and learning right now and creating the best version of you with the help of God. And when you create that, man, God's got someone absolutely amazing for you. Maybe it's something else. Like the thing is, when we get into this world like this, is when we choose to do things accidentally, you never get the result you want. If you want to accidentally stumble into losing weight, it's not going to happen. If you want to accidentally stumble into a six-pack, it's not going to happen. If you want to accidentally stumble into buying a new car but never saving up for it, it's not going to happen. If you want to accidentally pay off all your debt, it's not going to happen. We got to get past this accidental thing that we have in our life and go, no, if you want to be purposeful, that is when real change is going to happen. So love is the exact same way. You will not live a life of love accidentally. You must make a daily choice to follow Jesus wholeheartedly and to walk in love. And someone's like, well, what does that even mean? How do I walk in love? How do I make a daily decision to follow Jesus? Get into his word. Figure out a way to read the Bible that you enjoy. Get worship music on in those times. Do your devotions and just see what happens. But don't do it once and feel nothing. Don't do it twice and do nothing. Don't do it for a month and feel nothing. Stick to it. Make it a habit. And do it because you want to, not because you're trying to get something out of it. A transactional relationship always ends up to be like dirt. It doesn't do anything for anyone. It's just completely, no. But you want to make sure that you get to a point where, no, you're good. You've gotten where you want to be. You have a relationship with Jesus, and now it's like soil. It's like enriched soil in your life, where now you can see things in your life begin to get better. Relationships get better. Your career gets better. Your own knowledge and wisdom get better and better and better and better. And that because it's established on a relationship, not transactional, but just simply because you want to get to know the creator of you, the person, the God who has a plan for your life. See, only then will you leave this life of judgment, and you'll leave it behind for good. And instead, you're going to step into a life full of God's love, full of God's love. You might be watching this right now and feeling like you haven't felt loved in a long time because you've always based it off what other people think, or maybe how your marriage holds up, or maybe how your family loves you, or maybe what other people say about you or how they love you. But that's always going to be fickle. It's always going to fade out. But when you rely on God's love, there's a verse in the Bible that says God's love is perfect. There's no one's love we can experience in the world that is perfect except for God's. And that's why we as people, as Christians, need to establish that love inside of our life so that we no longer need to judge others. We no longer need to judge ourselves for anything. Instead, we can allow God's word to transform our world, our life, our body, our thoughts, our mind, our health, everything. You can enter into that because God is so powerful with that.